Hello world, is Rational Pie here with you today with another rational list of 5 things I found that I fucking love science. So it's pretty easy what I decided our primary story was going to be today, and that is that we have found liquid water on Mars. That to me is just downright amazing. And in case you didn't hear me because my speaker was way over here, we have found flowing water on Mars. So that just in and of itself is an amazing feat. To be able to find something that's so needed for life is, and it's on another planet, it's just mind-boggling. I kind of take this back to my America Loves Science video. Whenever this was announced, social media was set ablaze with this discovery, and I was very proud that, you know, the young people, well, I'm 27, so I guess I still kind of count as a young person, but social media blew up with this science news, and that was just awesome to me. And it really does show that Americans really do care about science and math and stuff like that, but we gotta take that a step further. We gotta keep that motivation. We gotta keep that interest high. And with all of these recent discoveries, the water on Mars, these Pluto and Charon pictures coming from New Horizons, we're about to go over the Dawn spacecraft exploring Ceres, and this is just super cool to me, you know. So what does it really mean that we found water on Mars? Well, it excuse me, it could show that at one point Mars did have these giant seas and these giant rivers and these giant oceans even, and it could show that it once had a more stable atmosphere that could sustain life. And if that's the case, then what are the possibilities out there? If the closest neighbor to us could sustain life even as recently as 1,000,000 years ago, some may say, then what's to say other planets out there can't? We're finding new planets day to day, exoplanets outside of our solar system that orbit around stars in the habitable zone, which is the appropriate distance away from the sun that gets the right amount of heat to be able to sustain life. We're finding these every day. There's finally the reliable way to find these planets, and surely one of them has to have the capability of sustaining life. And that's what this gives us the hope of. While I'm skeptical we're actually going to find life on Mars, just showing this as the capability is astounding. There's even some excuse me. There's even some of the moons of Jupiter that are getting a lot of attention from scientists, that one of them may harbor life. Io and Ganymede, I believe, are the two, and Titan are the 3 primary moons that they're looking at, because they found liquid water being flowed underneath the surface of those moons. So while we're still years away from being able to directly analyze these things, these water oceans, this flowing water on Mars, it's still something that provides us hope. It's kind of like bringing back the space race. It just imagining what we can do to get on the moon. The United States can get on the moon. Well, now that we're saying scientists have now found tangible evidence that life could possibly be on another world. I mean, that's just, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. If we mix that with some of these recent promises from some of our political leaders, and we finally get through this mess of political BS and make college available for everybody, then maybe we can retake some of what we lost in these recent years. So keep it up, America. I'm proud of you this day by making how important of a discovery this is well known to the masses. And even if everybody who shared something on Facebook about water being on Mars may not understand the intricacies of it, just the fact that they're sharing it is a good step forward. So basically what this article is saying is that while yes, we did find water on Mars, flowing water per se, it's very, very salty due to the perchlorates in the sand that the water brought down with it. So trying to be able to analyze this water is going to be very difficult, and it's going to be very time consuming because the current rovers that are up there are contaminated, and so a new spacecraft will have to be built, and it has to be completely sterilized, which takes years upon years to make sure that happens. And so we're still quite a bit of ways from being able to analyze this water on Mars, but we have observed it for the first time, so that's a good step in the right direction. So go ahead and check that out. Our next story, we're going to go to the moon spike. So what the moon spike is, so this kind of cracks me up a little bit, but there's a Danish company that wants to send out a moon spike. It's a very lightweight spacecraft that they're going to send like pictures and digital media from Earth to the moon in this little spacecraft, only 70 feet high, and they're just going to spike it into the moon. They're just going to crash it into the moon, and there's no plans for a return trip. And they're trying to sell this as getting to the moon on a budget, but they're seeking $1 million from a Kickstarter. So let's go ahead and see how far they are in their Kickstarter. It looks like they're 18,353 out of $1 million. They got 30 days to go, so I guess that just started today. Get off, kitty. So with only 200 backers, they've already gotten almost $20,000. So I don't know if that's good or not, but they're looking for $1 million to start things out, and then they're expecting it to be a total of $100 million. And I'm sure that's a lot lower than other expeditions to the moon, but it's still not technically on a budget, because unless you're crazy rich, that's not going to happen for the standard person. I do love all these stories about an elevator to the moon, or stuff like this. It's really interesting to me. But Copenhagen Suborbitals is the company that's trying to make this happen. There's a lot of companies that have said they're going to take a spacecraft to the moon. Not very many come through, but these guys seem to be very serious about it, and that's something I can definitely get behind. Next up, retroviruses. Sound like something fun, right? Well, it doesn't appear so. ALS is a disease that some research has been done that it looks like where's that? Where's the stat? Where is the stat? Where is the stat? I love stats. Where's the stat? I can't find it. But there's 8%. They're saying that as much of 8% of our DNA was actually founded by viruses that affected humans millions of years ago. Well, that's a pretty nice chunk of our current DNA. And what they're believing is that these retroviruses, is what they're called, can be activated. And whenever they do activate, and there's a specific one that causes ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. And that's one thing that they're looking into right now, because it says roughly 10% of ALS patients also have a relative affected with the disease. So it indicates heritability. And they're believing it's because of these old retroviruses. And if it is really that much of our DNA is retrovirus, and we find ways to activate them, then this could become a very dangerous research field, but also very rewarding if we're able to figure out how these things work and even see if they can help us down the road. So I mentioned Ceres earlier. The Dawn spacecraft returns some new images of the dwarf planet, and the thing that's really fascinated me is this bright spot. There's been so many theories out there, ranging from it's producing the dwarf planet's atmosphere by shifting water vapor into the air, to it's a giant salt pile, to it's a giant metallic area. There's a lot of theories out there, but we just don't know what it is. And for such a small planet, I believe it's between Mars and Jupiter, but for such a small planet, having something that we've never seen before and something that we can't explain is just the beauty of space. I mean, that's about all there is to it. So hopefully whenever they get to their lowest their lowest descent to the planet, which is about 375 miles. This should get a better idea of what it is. There's a nice map here that shows the topography of Ceres, and it looks like they found a mountain on there, which is weird for a tiny little planet like that. And it looks like in December is when they're going to be at their lowest point above the planet, so they're going to find out a lot more by then. So we'll probably follow up on this later on. So ever wonder how a vinyl works? Well, this is how. Using an electron microscope, they actually took a recording of how a record player extracts music from the vinyl records. And what it is you have this spike here, you have the grooves in the vinyl, and then as it vibrates between the two channels, the sensors pick that up, amplify it, and then produce the sound from it. And that's basically what a record player does. If you're interested, there's a 9-minute video at the bottom of this article. All of the articles are going to be in the description. This looks pretty interesting. I took a look at the video. It's pretty fascinating how it works. I don't know a whole lot about vibration analysis and stuff like that, but it is pretty neat. I suggest you check it out if you're into vinyl music and stuff like that. Well, those are the 5 things that I found on I Fucking Love Science. As always, I do fucking love science. If you guys have any stories that you'd like for me to cover, or if there's any specific stories that you've seen me covered that you'd like my opinions on, or would like for me to go a little bit more in depth into, leave a comment below. They're always appreciated. You know what else is appreciated? Like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.